Alright guys, d0ntblink 97 back here with another tank review. This time we're going to be doing the Tier 8 German Premium Heavy Tank, the Lowe A. Now the Lowe A is one of my favorite Tier 8 premiums because it has a very good gun, which is rare on a Tier 8 premium, and it can make good credits. Now let's get started off with the armor profile on the Lowe A, as it is a heavy tank. Now the armor profile on the Lowe at first looks actually not too bad. 120 millimeters of frontal armor is the same amount as a 112, and the 112 is very strong frontally. It has 100 millimeters of side armor, which means you can side scrape in some matchups. However, you don't want to start doing that against tier 8 and 9 guns that have upwards of 230-ish pen, or you will get penetrated depending on your angle. And the front plate, while being 120 millimeters thick, is not very well sloped and has some major weak spots which can very easily get you killed. The front of the turret is 120 millimeters thick. All the sides around it are 80 millimeters thick. The front of the turret is very well sloped, however, and has a very big gun mantlet, so you won't be getting penetrated too much at the front of the turret. However, there are some weak spots that you should definitely know about. Now let's get a little bit more detail with the armor profile. So the front plate, which is the sloped frontal plate, has an approximate thickness of about 180 to 200 millimeters depending on where you shoot it, which is okay. It's not going to bounce you too much in a tier 8 game, so you have to angle it a little bit, maybe about this much, if you want to get some bounces. However, the bottom plate is where the transmission lies, so this tank does get set on fire a lot if it gets shot in the bottom plate. Another weak spot is the bar of steel that connects the lower plate and the upper plate, this little mid plate right here, is only 100 millimeters thick, and it is completely flat and easily penetrable from any angle. Even if you're angling the tank like this, even though your side is very weak, somebody could shoot at that bar and probably penetrate it with upwards of 200 millimeters of penetration. Another thing is the turret has some weak spots too. The front of the turret is 120 millimeters thick. This gun mantlet is very thick and is nearly impenetrable by every gun in the game. It's just super thick. Only super high caliber guns with very high penetration will be able to penetrate it. However, the cheeks of this tank are not as strong, as they're about 240 millimeters of armor effectively, where those little crosses are on the side. About 240 millimeters of armor effectively. And the cheeks that are right outside of the gun mantlet can be penetrated as well. Also, this tank has a very large turret ring, which can be easily penetrated if you manage to shoot under the gun mantlet. And it also has a very prominent cupola. Now, the tank has a decent amount of gun depression. I think 7 or 8 degrees, which is pretty good for a heavy tank. Considering how tall this one is, you definitely do need the gun depression. It also has a lot of gun elevation, which isn't too useful, but in some situations it can help. The T-34, for instance, does not have good gun elevation, and that can really hurt you in some situations. Another thing is this tank has a very big target. It's very tall and it's very large, so you definitely don't want to be out in the open in this tank. You want to have some cover, or you want to be in a spot where only your turret is showing. Now, this tank as a heavy tank apparently doesn't look that good, and that's because this tank has another balancing factor, which is its magnificent 105 millimeter cannon. This 105 millimeter has 234 millimeters of penetration, which is really good on any tier 8 tank, and is loads better than, for instance, the guns on the 112 and the IS-6, which only have in the 175 area of penetration. Even the FCM-50T, which has a very nice 90 millimeter, only has about 212 millimeters of penetration. And another great thing about this gun is it has .33 accuracy, which is pinpoint accurate. It has a long aim time, but this tank is not a frontline heavy. It is more of a support heavy, so second line heavy. It has an average rate of fire of 5 rounds a minute, but with the gun rammer, vents, and Brothers in Arms, you can get that down to about 6 rounds a minute, about reload every 10 seconds. And with premium rounds, this thing has 294 millimeters of penetration, which is quite a lot on a tier 8 tank. You can penetrate pretty much anything you'd like to with that amount of penetration, maybe besides some tier 10 TDs like the Jagdpanzer E100 or the T110E3 frontally. And the HE has an average penetration of 60 millimeters with 420 average damage, good for taking out Arty and some light tanks. Now it has 400 meters view range, which is pretty good on a tier 8 premium heavy tank. Some of the tanks like the IS-6 and the 112 have between 350, 380 meters view range. This has much more than that, so this thing has some decent view range. It has a 24 degrees a second traverse speed, which isn't too bad. I think it's a little bit faster than the T-34, and it's sort of characteristic of the tank because the tank weighs so much. And it has an 800 horsepower motor, which means going uphill you will be going extremely slow, as this tank, like I said, weighs about 90 tons. Now let's get into what equipment I run on this tank. I run a large caliber gun rammer to get the rate of fire down. I run an enhanced gun lane drive to get the aim time down, and I run vents to improve all my skills, and it also helps with the rate of fire. And as for my crew, here are some crew training I recommend. Obviously, get 6th sense and repairs should always be your first ones. For this tank, I probably go at repairs first and then 6th sense, because you want to be able to get out of situations with a good repair crew. Then thirdly, I'd go with Brothers in Arms. Brothers in Arms always is good on a tank. It helps all of its qualifications, and if you're running ventilation, it also helps stack on top of the buff. Next would be firefighting, because if you're not going to run a fire extinguisher with this tank, which you should, you definitely need to be able to put out fires very quickly, or you will find yourself in a hole very quickly. Next would be off-road driving and clutch braking. Off-road driving because this tank is very heavy and it really digs into soft and medium terrain, making it very unmaneuverable, so you need to get that as fixed as you can. And clutch braking for the same thing, has a low traverse speed, so you can get that. Also for the fire, preventative maintenance is also a good perk. Alright guys, and another thing about this tank, its shells are rather expensive. They are 1,000 a pop, whereas if we look at the Jagdtiger 88, another German tier 8 premium tank, its shells are only 252 credits. So in the Jagdtiger 88, for about every 4 shots you fire, costs as much as 1 shot fired in the Lowe A. So with the Lowe A, you definitely have to be more careful about how you take your shots. I mean, obviously this is a premium tank, so you're going to be making money hand over fist unless you just fired nothing but premium. But even with that, if you want to make the max amount of money, go ahead and just make sure you hit your shots. Alright guys, well that was the in-depth garage review. I think I've told you everything you need to know about this tank, and now let's get stuck. Alright guys, the first game we're going to see here is on Sacred Valley. I had a pretty good matchup for this game, and this game is going to mainly portray a few things, some strategies and some very good strengths of the Lowe and some weaknesses that we'll see in the gameplay. Now, Sacred Valley is a pretty awkward map for this tank because, as it is a very big target, the problem with Sacred Valley is you can be engaged from many different angles, and this tank does not have the armor really from any angle besides the front to really bounce shots. So initially I decided to go to the heavy tank, I guess, hill here on the left side of the south spawn. This is where I normally go, and I can get hold down and use my great turret armor to hopefully bounce a lot of shots. Now here you can see on sort of hard to medium terrain, the Lowe gets around reasonably well, 20-ish kilometers an hour, up to 25. It's not fast at all, but it's not too slow. It's bearable, put it that way. Now, what I'm starting to notice right now is that, I have some teammates with me, but they already have tanks over here spotting, and that's very bad. But right there shows you the excellent accuracy of the gun. Snipe one right into the E25 before he scurried off for about 320. The RD takes a shot at us and misses him. Well, he hits a house, unfortunately for him. And this is when I get set on fire, and that is the problem with this tank. See, first shot I took in that game, boom, set on fire. Got shot right in the engine by an E25 75mm gun, and immediately I was down and out. Alright, I already got, so my fire extinguisher is gone. That's when we spot that E25. Snipe one, put one into him with our excellent penetration and excellent accuracy. And now, it's at this point when I realize they have a lot of stuff on the hill, and I'm just not in a good enough spot to defend myself. So I decided to do something that was rather risky, but it was really the only thing I could do given the situation. I decided to book it back to my base so that I can get some hard cover and some camouflage between me and the enemy team, as I still will have teammates around me. Now, this gun, because it's very accurate, has very high penetration, I can play it like a sniper if I really want to. And this tank is kind of known almost for being a sniper heavy tank. Now you see, if we would have stayed exactly where we were, we would have had 4 tanks shooting down at us and 2 shooting across from us, and we would have been in a dire situation there. We might have been dead by this time, who knows. But I am detected right now, so I'm trying to move over to this hill, get some hard cover. Take one shot from the Cheeto rather. Puts another one into me. I put one into him for 382, a very high roll. This gun rolls for a max of 400, so 382 is a very good roll. Moving our way over to this hill, and yep, our engine gets taken out. And the engine in this tank is not very durable in terms of being a module. It gets set on fire, it can get knocked out easily, so you have to be careful with that. Now we put one into the arrow for 342 there, punching above our average once again. Now we're mostly safe. We got this hill between us and them, and our frontal armor is only facing them, which at a distance against tier 8 and 7 tanks is pretty thick actually, pretty good. Now I'm just looking for a shot here on anybody, and the VK's poking. Is he gonna do it? Yep. We snipe in for over 300 damage, and this is just showing you the long range accuracy of this gun. This gun is very accurate at medium to long ranges, and just in general. The aim time is a little high, but we can work around that with equipment and other things like that. Put one into the Churchill, 335. We've been punching above our average a lot this game. We haven't punched below 320 yet. Yep, 372. So this game, it has been mixed with a little bit of good RNG. We've been hitting our high rolls a lot. Really haven't hit too many low rolls. Even though this tank has 400 meters view range, this tank has awful camo because it's very big, so it kind of needs that view range in order to kind of equalize its bad camo. And I'm looking around me, making sure I'm not going to get flanked by that heavy tank down there. And I don't want to go around to the front and try and flank them because there's still guys up on the hill. And I think that's our first low roll, 290, which is 30 less than the average roll on this gun, which is 320. It's not this moment when I realize, I think this heavy tank is going to try to come after me, and then that's when an E25 appears. But don't panic, stop, take him out. That's one of the tanks that you don't want to have outplaying you because it has such a quick rate of fire. You will really find yourself in a hard spot in a tank this big against that. I call it for help because I don't know what heavy tank is down here, and I know that there's a Tiger in the middle, I think, on my team. And then that's when we spot a KV2. Now, because of our excellent penetration, we can pretty much pen him anywhere we want to on that fat turret. And the artilleries are out of the game right now, so this really is a good situation for us because we don't have to worry about artillery taking us out, because they easily could, considering I only have 550-ish health left. I'm coming back to base because I'm expecting there to be a heavy push somewhere along our baseline. That's when we spot the ARL. Have a very slim shot at him, trying to aim it in a little bit better. And we take the shot, and of course we nail it with our .33 accuracy. This gun is just one of the best guns on any tier 8 heavy. I mean, just plain out, not just premium tanks, but any tier 8 heavy, this is one of the best guns you can mount on it. Now here we're going after the Churchill, and he gets cleaned up, so then we find ourselves going up against, I think that's a T-29. Yes, it is. So let's go ahead and punch him. Let's go ahead and get some damage on him. Now he's hull down, so I really don't have a chance of penning him, but I take a fire shot on the move to see if I can maybe catch his turret ring or maybe his side armor. We hit him, but we don't penetrate him. And now I'm just going to try to move up to him, maybe try to get some fire on him, but I have people flanking him already, and we do still have 2 arties in the game. So I'm not expecting really to get that damage. He's unspotted right now, but I know I'm not going to make it there in time. And he gets taken out. But overall, a pretty good game in the Lowe A, showing you its mobility and its gun performance, and some of its armor capabilities and its weak spots. Now, we finished the game with 120,000 credits, which is the whole point of why you would buy a tank like this, and that's to make money. So 120,000 credits with the premium account is a very healthy profit. We didn't fire any premium rounds, we didn't use any premium consumables, so keep that in mind. And even without premium, we still would have made 74,000 credits, and this is without any ops or anything. This is just how much money the tank made. And we were only shooting at tiers 8, 7, and 6 tanks. So if you get into a tier 10 game and you do well in a tier 10 game, you can make a lot of credits. And we finished with over 3,200 damage, firing 12, hitting 12, and penning 11. So overall, a very, very solid game. Next gameplay we're going to look into is on Abbey. Once again, I believe this was a pretty decent matchup again. Yep, we are top tier. And yeah, we're top tier to about the same extent as we were last game, where there's tier 8, 7, and 6s on both teams. Now, this KB4 just sort of, yeah, he's just being, I don't know, didn't even see me. Check your mirrors, boys. Don't want to block anybody. Now, we're going to head over here to the right side of the map. And we're going to try to control that alleyway on the top and on the bottom. Now here we see the Lowe A speed on a little bit of flatter terrain, and we did get up to 30 kilometers an hour there, but on average you're going to be sitting around 25 to 30. Whoops. I accidentally dropped something there. But as you can see, we're not terribly slow. We're keeping up with our fellow heavy tanks. Even the T-29, he's kind of losing us, but you know, we're keeping up with them. And it's at this point when I start to realize, you know, there's really not too many of us here. A lot of our heavy tanks went into the middle of the map, which I am worried about, because that's not a good position to be in a heavy tank. We need heavy tanks on this corner so that we can push these guys and win this corner. Sure enough, they can support us from the middle, but they have to be smart enough to realize they can shoot this side of the map from the middle. I see this IS-3 coming, and I realize, you know, we only got a Churchill there, but then I look behind him. There's another guy behind him to help him out, so I just stay and push this flank. Get the side of the KV-4 turret. Hit him in the ammo rack on the first shot. It's a pretty lucky shot. And I didn't know the KV-4 had an ammo rack located back there. We dump one into the dirt on the Sherman. That was a pretty badly placed shot. The T-29 goes to help out those guys. So now it's a 3 versus 1 pretty much between me and these guys. Put one into the Sherman. He's using the 105 dirt howitzer, so he's going to be a little bit of an annoyance for me until he's dead. Now focus down the KV-4, wait to get that bottom plate. Now if I was in an IS-6 or a 112 without premium ammunition, I would have a lot of trouble penetrating this KV-4. But I'm not in one of those tanks, and I have excellent penetration, so I can damage this KV-4 very reliably. However, he can do the same thing to me. He comes out, put a shot into me, I put a shot right back into him. Our rate of fires are nearly the same. His is a little faster, but I think my equipment setup is better than his, so I can fire actually nearly as fast as he can. He puts another one into me. I call out for help because I'm afraid that Freedom is just going to push me hard, and kill me. And in the beginning he does. And then he just sort of turns off and looks into the middle of the map. Now this really surprised me, because now with him not focusing on me, I notice that my T-29 is in dire need of help. So at this moment, whenever I realize I can go help my T-29 friend. The Churchill's trying the best he can to support him, but the Churchill just doesn't have enough penetration to go through an IS-3, which is what's causing this T-29 so much issues. I tell the Churchill to follow me. If we can 3-on-1 this guy, hopefully we can beat him. So I decide we need to push. The Churchill stops right in the middle of the road, which really shouldn't have done. I put one right into the IS-3 for 272. T-29 damages him. But now we have a T-34-1 on the enemy team. It's a tier 7 Chinese medium, and I'm not too excited about him being on my flank. But I don't think he has a very good gun, so I'm just going to focus down the IS-3 as he is the bigger threat. Hit him for 322. And then this is where the lower plate weakness comes in. I get pinned by the T-34-1 once. I'm still focusing on the IS-3. I think I accidentally shot him in the gun there because it just got absorbed. This Churchill is trying his best, firing HE, keeping him track for me. We damage him again for 304, and then the Freedom shows up. He's now behind me. The Freedom is now behind me, and I'm still getting penetrated to the front by that T-34-1. I need to penetrate this shot. I fire clutch. It bounces. And this is when I load my first premium round of the game, because I need to kill this IS-3. This IS-3 is not killed. He could very easily go on to influence this game and even possibly clutch it with this Freedom. So I load a premium round, come around the corner, just fire at him because I know I'm going to penetrate it. Nearly 300 millimeters of penetration. The Freedom comes around and ends my life. But in the situation, I did exactly what I should have. I targeted the more dangerous tank, and I helped my team massively there. So the Lowe A, as we saw there, if you're running it with the right equipment setup, as I showed you in the garage, the rate of fire should be about on par with other tier 8 heavies. About 6 rounds a minute is what you could expect, which is more than the KV-4 and more than the Tiger II, which both have similar guns. Now, this tank overall is one of my favorite tanks as a premium. Makes good money, has a great gun, and you can play it as a heavy. Sometimes the armor can work, you just got to know how to work it. So overall, if you're thinking about buying this tank, I do definitely think it's worth the money. It's an excellent money maker, it's a good crew trainer, and overall, I do approve it. Now we go to the post-game results. We pick up another 120,000 credits, and these two games were back-to-back. So back-to-back, I made nearly 250,000 credits in about 15 minutes, which is a pretty good amount. We only damaged 4 targets, but we killed the entirety of that KV-4 and finished with about 3,200 damage. We fired 14, hit 13, penned 11. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the tank review, and if you did, please leave a rating below, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.